Hey, take two, folks. I just realized I forgot to turn my microphone on, but we'll try this again. Hey, it's been a while. We had some technical issues waiting on some technology to come in, but we finally back up and running. And I hope you're having a great summer. And we're knee-deep into summer, and especially those dog days. And I hope you're looking forward to catching some more rest and relaxation and fun times with the family as we continue to go through these summer days and anticipate a busy time coming up soon. School will be here before you know it. Hey, I want to invite you this week to come out with us because as we gather as a church, we're going to be talking about the difference between walking by faith and walking by sight. I saw a funny thing on the internet a couple days ago by a Christian comedian. He saw a bumper sticker that said, "We drive by faith and not by sight." Well, we need to drive by sight and not by faith, but I understood what was being kind of drawn upon. In the New Testament, there's this description of what it means to do life as the people of God, and it's this descriptor that says we walk by faith and not by sight. In other words, we walk by faith in a God who is good to his people and has great plans for his people, and not by sight according to the various obstacles and problems and situations that we often face that we find to be insurmountable on our own. This weekend, as we gather, we're going to continue in a series called Wanderers out of the book of Numbers, where God is actually molding and shaping his people, showing them what it's like to do life with him. And some of the lessons that they have learned had to do with complaining, had to do with obedience and stuff like that. And this one's going to be the lesson of faith. In Numbers chapter 13, verse 1, we find that God tells Moses, who is the leader of this group of people known as Israel, to actually send men out into the land of Canaan, a land that he is giving to the Israelites. Now, this is huge because for hundreds of years, this promise of having this land had been the culmination of all the hopes and dreams of these thousands, if not millions of people. Because hundreds of years before, God made a promise to a man named Abraham that this land of Canaan would one day belong to his descendants. And so all the hopes and dreams and the aspirations of all the descendants of Abraham, known as the Israelites, rested in this promise that they would be given a land. Well, according to God's sovereign time, the time had come. And it was time for people to go in and check out the land to see if it is just as beautiful and bountiful as all their dreams had painted it to be. And so we see them going into the land. We read in Numbers 13 that the spies go into the land. They're called spies, they're called scouts, whatever it may be. And they find that the fruit is even better than they could possibly imagine. That the beauty is even more than they could have possibly dreamed. But also, the people that inhabited that land were stronger and more skilled in warfare than they thought they would be. Their cities were more fortified. Their defenses were more impenetrable than they ever even imagined them to be. And so when they came back to the people and Moses as a leader and reported what they found, they said, yes, the fruit is awesome. The beauty is amazing, but the obstacles are real. And so as they gave that report, the people who had hoped and dreamed for so long in the culmination of this promise that God had given them were disheartened and discouraged because they saw the obstacles that were before them. And so a choice lay before the people that day to walk by faith in that God had promised them this. And if God had promised to give them this land, then there was nothing that could prevent that from happening because God cannot lie and no one can overcome his plan. Or they could walk by sight in envisioning the obstacles and all the hindrances and all the roadblocks that lay before them that they certainly weren't equipped or skilled to overcome. Well, as they considered all the options, they ultimately made the dreaded decision to walk by sight rather than by faith. They considered the obstacles and all the problems, and they said, you know what, we can't do it, so we're not going to walk the path that God has laid before us. And so they compromised and negotiated their faith and settled for walking by sight. You know, the same is true for you and I today, because the question that begs to be answered is, are you walking by faith or are you walking by sight? Just as God had made promises to his people of old of good things, God has made promises to his people today of good things, of great plans, of great promises that we have to walk by faith in order to experience and receive. We have to believe him. We have to trust him with a non-compromising faith. Or we can walk by sight. And we can hear all these promises come forth from the pages of scriptures in our Bible study times, in our devotion times, or even in a weekend gathering as the word of God is proclaimed publicly. And we can consider them to be good for other people, but not before us, because we see obstacles and we see roadblocks and we see hindrances. So how are you walking? Are you walking by faith or are you walking by sight? Because if you see hindrances, they can stop you, or God can show you how awesome he is as he overcomes them for you. What will it be? Hey, let's follow God by faith. Let's drive by sight. I think that's important, but let's follow God by faith, because without faith, it's impossible to please him. Without faith, it's impossible to see the fullness of his goodness and majesty and power in our lives. Hey, there's a lot more that I want to talk to you about this weekend. I'm excited about our gathering. So, hey, 8:30 or 11, either one of those times, I hope they work for you as we come together through these summer days. And as God's people of old, we're learning what it was like to do life with him. Let us learn or relearn what it's like to do life with him. It's Friday, folks. You made it through another week. The weekend is upon us. God bless.